Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye has friends. No, really, Jeff has friends. Jeff's friends are on this podcast. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship. Jeff Dye's friendship.
Friendship.
Welcome back to Jeff Dye's Friendship, week 46. This is a podcast about friendship, a podcast about love, a podcast about getting to know each other on a better level. This week is going to be a real good one because we have my friend and a guy that I was a huge fan of that was very influential. If you ever saw me do stand-up in the first few years of stand-up, it was very derivative of this comedian. He is an incredible comic and his household name, Dane Cook, everybody. Great episode. You guys are going to love this. We talk about the highs and the lows. Not the lows as much, but as much as the way people talk about Dane Cook. So if you don't know what I'm talking about when we get into that part of the interview, sometimes people are mean. Sometimes people just see somebody doing good and they make them a punchline and talk trash about them. And so, that's what we get into. This guy is super funny. I've always enjoyed his comedy, and now he is going back on tour. He's doing a 47-city tour, probably going to be more as the dates go on. But as of now, it's 47 cities. Starts February 20th. If you want to catch Dane Cook, go to danecook.com and buy your tickets, or just search Dane Cook on the internet and put in your town to see if he's going to be there soon. Yeah, if you want to watch this episode, go to patreon.com/Jeff Dye, and you can watch the episode. You'll also get free comedy club tickets to any of my shows, and little goodies and treats and live streamings after a little while, and exclusive content. Anyways, we love you guys, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
Dude, you get a lot of action figures over here, bud.
These are from when I was a kid, and then they started remaking them. And so
now you say these are from when you were a kid, like they came through a time machine.
Well,
these were from I didn't bring them through my whole life and travel from place to place.
Yeah, they were not in a box or anything.
I got all my Star Wars ones.
Well, what happened was my dad, they were like in a big shed, and my dad goes, "You want these?" And I was, I didn't have a home and stuff for a long time. There was no place to bring them.
Yeah.
And then eventually I was like, "Yeah, dude, I fucking want those for sure." And so that's why they're here now.
Yeah, they are.
Now they're remaking them, which is great.
Oh, you could probably even sell these if things get really lean.
No, that's the one thing that's that's the deception of how I have them displayed. They appear as if they're super valuable. You could buy every single one of those and this case for about $4,000.
That's still that's $4,000. But
that's $2,000 as a case.
I have the same thing, and I did travel with mine, and I always had them set up in my apartment. And then, we're in.
Yeah, we're in. Yeah. But you're a Star Wars. But they were all Star Wars.
Star Wars, G.I. Joe.
Oh, nice.
And it was that same thing. I had them like proudly displayed, and then finally, when I got a house, I was like, I think stuff like this is good for podcast.
Absolutely. Well, this is the room I keep women out of until they know me well enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then they come in and they go.
It's not so bad, man. It's not so bad.
Well, those are the remainder of my baseball cards. So I used to have a ton of baseball cards, and then I was like, none of these are worth anything. Let's just keep the cool ones, put them in a thing, and then get rid of the rest.
Yeah, see, I never was into baseball stuff or sports stuff collecting, but I loved, remember those little Smurfs? There was like these little plastic Smurfs.
No.
Yeah, there was like, you could get like, Brainy Smurf and Smurfette and Papa Smurf. And I that's when I realized, I think I had like an OCD because I got like 3, but then I'm like, I need 10. And then I got 10 and I'm like, oh, there's a new position that the Papa Smurf is in now. and I couldn't stop.
Gotta
And
get the
I think that was
variations.
when I started to
That's
realize.
hilarious. I used to always, there was a time before I started reading actual literature where I was like, I wonder if I have like a God complex. And it's just that I like owning these little men and I'm so large and then like I'm making them do what I want, you know?
I think it's only a God complex if you're wearing a cloak.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had a cloak.
I think once you start wearing an actual cloak,
Long
that's
white hair wig.
Yeah. Once you start really getting into cloak wear, I kind of feel like God complex is.
This goes into
on
one
the
of the
table.
things I actually wanted to talk with
This
you
is
about.
the opening of the show. I love
Well,
this.
no, there'll be like a little buffer, but yeah, we just jump right
This
in.
is so
So here's
great.
the thing I will say.
Okay.
One of the things that I think everybody loves about your stand-up, and I've always loved about your
Oh,
stand-up,
this should be interesting. Everybody?
everybody, yes, and the rise of Dane Cook, I think this was a little thing that I observed that I think is true to
Okay.
everyone who likes you. Your word choice is phenomenal. And you just did it. It is a cloak. And you knew that was the funniest part and you said it again because it is the no one says cloak. When people talk about hobos, you know, every like open mic that wants to make fun of homeless people, they don't talk about bindle sticks, you know, like, and that's what it's called. And that's a great term and people want to get the laugh, they should use that. But
Yes.
I'm trying to think of another example. You would do it with so many different things where it's like, oh my God, that's such a perfect word.
I grew up in, so my mom and dad had truck drivers' mouths. Right. And so, can we swear on this podcast?
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
so everything in the house was in Boston. Fucking, the fucking Red Sox kid. You're fucking everything all the time, you know, and worse and beyond that. So the word of the day in my house was usually probably something that like Carlin had joked about. or so as I started doing stand-up, I didn't realize that I was swearing as much as I was. And then I listened to myself like 10 years in and I'm like, oh man, it was so many F-bombs that it was starting to deplete the real estate of what should be around your piece of material. Right. So I started reading. Then I become obsessed with like reading and word of the day stuff and just like investigating language with the goal of melding vernacular with fuck.
Right.
You know, speaking right down to earth, but also unique words to paint verbal pictures to set phrasing apart from something you may have heard, you know, similarly.
It hits your ears differently. I remember when I first started comedy, I was like, if I could steal anyone's thesaurus, it would be Dane Cook's because there's certain word you're like, oh, I want to use that word.
Now the whole interview, we're going to be like, oh, that's exquisite. We're going to be trying to find the...
Well, what would happen was you would say the word and then a bunch of hanger-on fucking idiot hack open micers, they start doing it and you go, no, you don't get, we all know where you heard that. Right. Nobody's going to punch it in the neck, tell you.
Nobody says kerfuffled.
Yes. Nobody's saying their dad's going to hit him in the face with a toaster. You don't get to say your dad's going to hit you in the face. We know where you got it. We can measure who you took this from. And I think that's...
Well, it's called emulating. Let's not say took.
Yeah, say took. I'm not afraid to use those words.
Then let's parry thrust on this, sir.
People know when they're stealing, Dane.
That's such like a side alley conversation because it's like, do they really?
Yes.
Oh God, I don't know.
No one is as good as they think they are. Everyone walks around like they're so good.
I think that maybe early in our careers, it's safe to say we emulate. We want to be like, you know, I love the physicality of Steve Martin Short, John Ritter. I used to watch Three's Company and like just the commitment to like how
that might be the only thing we disagree on. I always thought John Ritter was such a nerd. I don't know. I just always looked at him and I go, why do my mom and dad like this guy?
I'm going to stand up and I'm going to knock down a whole row
Don't you do
of your wrestling figurines.
Have they ever made a John Ritter action figure?
I bet there is.
You think so?
There has to be.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it would have been for.
Probably Three's Company, maybe.
Sling
Has
Blade?
to be. Sling Blade. Bad Santa? I don't know what it would come from.
Yeah, something like that.
So wait, so explain. So keep explaining that.
For what part?
We were talking about taking, stealing, and you were saying emulating.
Oh, no, I think that, okay, so there was like a comedian that I saw coming up. His name was Kevin Knox, and one of the best Boston guys. That entire region was like overflowing with really strong comedians that maybe didn't make it during the boom of the 80s. They didn't have the Robin Williams or Dice or Bobcat Goldthwait, people that came out of the 80s and had that trajectory, they ended up back in New York and Boston a lot, close by, a lot of money to be made in 1990 when I started after the boom of the 80s. So there was a guy, Kevin Knox, and I remember he would wear like a windbreaker, unzipped at least down to his navel, like a J-Lo Grammy dress, and he had like this big bushel of hair, and he had a double mullet, I called it. The mullet came down and then he grew it out longer, but then he shaped it. So it wasn't just like long, like an Allman Brother. He had a giant mullet and he'd wear like sweatpants and sneakers. And this guy's energy,
like a 80s Bob Seger.
It was like he was everything he was consumed with thinking about in terms of comedy wasn't so much what he was wearing. He was putting on this style of show night after night. And I would watch this guy, and I remember feeling like, well, I loved energy. I loved people that were physical, but this is the tone. This is what I feel like live stand-up comedy should be. So when I say emulate, of course, there's people that take and like people that like pull a chunk and verbatim, they're doing it the same way. And you're like, your mind is blowing. You're like, you're stealing. That is
you're so inspired that it is that
right. But then some people,
semantics.
But then some people you can look at. Somebody said the other day that a comedian that I really like and I'm friends with him recently, Sebastian Maniscalco, was he's taking off you. He's ripping, and I felt this thing happening where I'm like, I remember when I went through this.
Yeah,
I'm not going to let this guy perpetuate it because I don't believe it. Yeah. So I was like, dude, Sebastian's been doing it a long time.
Yep.
He's been doing it his way, and it's organic. I can see phony a mile away.
Right.
I was like, so if we all emulate because we like a certain kind of energy, that's flattering.
Right.
But flat out taking, I don't. Maybe it's more prevalent than I think. But
well, I would notice people doing it at the very low ranks in Seattle. But what I was saying was like same sentences.
Yes.
Or even like doing like you would watch a kid limp in and be like, "Do you ever remember those old commercials about like the Kool-Aid Man?" And you're like, dude,
right.
It's no coincidence that your Comedy Central Presents was playing on fucking repeat for 3 years on Comedy Central.
Right.
And then now this guy just decides he wants to talk about something when he's a, like 17-year-old kid at the open mic.
Well, yeah, it's like, you have no material when you're first starting out and you're probably feeling like, all right, maybe I just got to reenact.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that could be.
You learn quick that's not the...
Well, when I first started, I was doing my jokes as you.
People would say that once in a while. Like, there were certain comics. I remember one time Swartzen called me up from New York, really sad. He was like, they call me Little Dane. And I was like, dude, it's just, it goes with it. I was Jim Carrey.
Oh, okay.
I was, I'm trying to think of like wacky white dudes that I would,
when Mitch always got accused of being Stephen Wright.
Yeah. So everything is like a 2.0 version in people. It's more easily digestible to people if you can say, oh, it's like that. Mm-hmm. He's like this.
Sure. Yeah, they find a box to put it in and then they lump it together. Yeah. You grew up in Massachusetts. I feel like we had a lot of similarities. You had sisters, right?
Right.
One sister, two sisters?
I grew up with, I had 5 total, but I have one full sister, Courtney. Okay.
And Courtney's great. I know. I knew her for a little while when I first moved to LA, very briefly.
She's like my buddy. She's amazing.
And then your first job, was it at a video store?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something we have in common. You were always kind of the class clown, right? The drama guy?
I did drama, but I was definitely not the class clown.
Oh, okay.
I was more of an introvert still when I was in junior high and high school. Yeah, bad. Like
nobody would believe that of you.
Man, it was, I was shell shocked most of the time if I had to be around people. It was hard. Yeah. Most days, even just getting to school, let alone being in school, my throat would close. I'd have anxiety attacks. I had to go to a therapist, full on anxiety and panic attacks when I was like 5 or 6 years old. Totally 100% afraid of the world around me. And yet when I was home, comfortable, I was funny, seemingly. I was doing skits. I was putting my mom's wigs on and doing little dances. And it was just like I was a performer only in my living room.
Oh, that's interesting. I always tell, I used to speak to young people about things, and I used to always say, we can learn a lot from the opposite. So instead of a hero is good, like Marx used to always find a role model, these kind of things. But then, and there's great proof in that. if there's someone you like, you can just emulate what they do, and you can find yourself being like that hero. But an anti-role model, like if your dad is awful, you can go, I don't want to be like that, and you can find those kind of things.
Sure.
And I always say that to young people, like if you're very introverted, don't find your club or your group or your tribe. Watch the kid that's outgoing, because you can learn a lot from that kid.
Right.
You know, and the outgoing person should study the introvert and go, well, how are they dealing with things, and
Yes.
and that you can learn from those kind of things. So on stage, you appear to be super extroverted, and that's what people I think were drawn to.
Right.
Off stage, I remember I'd come to your shows like in like 2005, 2006, and you would get right off stage, you just go right back out to your car. Where I watch other comics are taking their shirts off and drinking whiskey and acting like weirdo. You know what I'm saying? So I guess I did notice it a little bit because I was sort of like seeing I was trying to observe what
Sure.
you did. Yeah. Do you feel like you still have some of those introvertednesses?
It's funny. They can still kind of ebb and flow over time. Gearing up for a new tour, getting back out there again. Not the shows. The crowd size has never, being on stage, I've never been nervous.
Right.
Meeting 20 people in a meet and greet after.
Yeah. Some weird
Even
pressure.
saying it, did you see that breath I just took? So
And
yeah.
there's no music, it's just usually weird fluorescent lighting
Yes.
and like a stupid thing to take a photo in front of that you don't even know the company that's on it or whatever.
And then people want to tell you like a story and you want to hear it, but it's like they're rushing people through. So it's this weird, very strange kind of, and it always harkens back to how I felt when I was a kid. The difference is I know I'll be okay.
Sure.
And I know the things that I can do to process it and make it through so that I don't curl up like a pill bug and roll away. But it's still there. Yeah, definitely. It doesn't inhibit me from when I need to sit and talk like this or, if there's some meeting or whatever, it's like, it doesn't inhibit me in that way, but sometimes it just creeps in. And then suddenly I feel like that solitude feeling again.
Which you spoke on it for a second. You said you're gearing up for a tour, which we're going to mention in the intro, but that's February 20th. It's 47 cities as of now. You guys are adding shows, it looks like, we're hoping, right? You've been in a ton of movies. You've had how many specials, counting your Comedy Central Presents, so it's 6 specials? Or is that way more than that?
Specials. I'm trying to think. Yeah, a bunch on Comedy Central, Vicious Circle, Troublemaker. Yeah, around 6 or 7.
Around 6. You've been in, like I said, a ton of movies that you've been in, over like 20 that I counted. But what I found was interesting was when I was going over all the titles again in my brain, dramatic movies, comedic movies, animated movies. Is there some sort of, so you've done all these things. And you could say you've not mastered stand-up, but you've been at the top of that mountain. I mean, there's only a few people that can say they sold out like Madison Square Garden, and you're in that very elite Hall of Famer like stand-up club. And then with the movies, you've done a ton of these movies. You've done the Pixar, all these different things. Is there a thing that you like? Do you sit at home sometimes and go, like, what now will I put my energy into?
I think more along the lines of what am I afraid of, and what do I think I can't do? And
I don't think there's anything you can't. That's what I feel would be the most struggling.
I don't know, man. I suck at a lot of stuff. I think I finally found this is good. This is my lane. This creativity and everything around that. But no, I'm sure I could fail in classic fashion in many other fortes.
Yeah, like in shit that nobody cares about.
Right.
You want to be a politician
Somebody
and they can
cares.
find some bit.
Somebody's succeeding in that shit.
Well, things that you'd like to do, though. You know what I mean? Like things that, like, I feel like that there might be some sort of impeding depression if I ever get to this moment where I go, well, I guess now I just have more to lose if I do a special, because someone will go, oh, well, we liked it better then. People are awful that way. Society's horrible that way.
Right. We like seeing something building up. We love it's like even in sports, we like seeing the underdog team go all the way to the very end, and then they're going to actually do it, that rocky moment, as opposed to appreciating, like, say, the Patriots. It's like they did it again.
We should value greatness.
Yeah, like we should look and be like, oh my God, this is so rare. This is rarefied air.
Film somebody going down K2. They only want to see the documentary about the top.
See, I want to see the other one. I want to see.
Which is actually, like, think about the Cubs. They were like the most lovable team in the world. But why? Because they were losing and because people were like, we're still loyal even though they sucked.
Yes.
But then the second they win, everyone's like, oh, God. It's like, dude, they just won. It's like they're not some crazy thing.
Yeah, basically the universe was like, hey, let somebody else struggle at the bottom.
Yeah, it's very weird. Yeah.
Get out of here, you winners.
You're hogging all the empathy from the rest of the sports universe.
Okay, so with me, here's really how all that stuff kind of rolled in. I always felt like stand-up comedy could be like the vessel to other things. Why? Because I watched Steve Martin do The Jerk, and then I watched him do stories like Father of the Bride, which had some nuance and delicate, vulnerable moments.
Sure.
And I knew I had all that stuff in me. I wasn't just kind of the alpha guy that you saw on stage, which was really me emulating people that I saw as brave and strong. So all that stuff bled into that. And then I started to make fans with directors and producers, and it was more organic. They would call me and say, hey, we've got this movie. It's a little bit different, blah, 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 but we love you. So it was like, I think people that see, when I see creativity in somebody, when I saw, say, Jim Carrey, we brought up earlier, it's like when they said The Truman Show and people were starting to smash him, I see a person who has a modicum of creativity as being able to have 100%. A myriad of creativity in many multifaceted ways. I never put a person in a box like that. Mm-hmm. So as I was invited to try more things, I would give it my best shot. And the things that I was afraid of were the ones that were actually the most gratifying. Right.
I think last time we got lunch, you were talking about the director of Rocky? Or no, that would be Stallone, right?
No. He wrote it. He didn't direct the first one.
I see. So you were meeting with him, or you had something, and I was like, this is so crazy. Like that, what a...
Trying to remember what that was. I just know that it was the story that I loved was how Stallone wrote it himself.
It's the best.
He had just come from doing like basically a softcore porn movie called
Italian Stallion,
King of the Hill, or some weird name, and he was not very good in it. I've seen it, but he wrote this thing that he knew he could tackle,
right?
And it was probably one of those parts that as he was putting it together. I mean, by the way, that's a documentary. Tell his story,
absolutely,
of the day he sat and went, okay, what's the character's name? I think I'll call him Chump. No,
isn't it the same story that he sold his dog?
Yeah, he sold his dog because he was out on his luck. And
he had no money. He's like, I can't even feed myself. I can't. And then he sold the dog, and then when he got the money, he went and bought the dog back.
Yeah, but the guy was a dick about it and like made him pay like way more than he sold him for. Yeah,
but Tony, what is a dog worth?
That's what I'm saying. That's the dog in the movie. That's the dog in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's his dog.
Dog's a movie star.
I know.
So if you want to make it, everybody, sell your dog.
Yeah, that's the thing. We need that. We need
that
some
motivation.
Grace to fall from.
Yeah.
So you write all of your own material and the special stuff, but have you written scripts for like movies and written those kind of things?
Yes. So I did a bunch of movies that basically I was like, for hire on. And that was frustrating only in comedy because we have a specific
thing.
Yeah, that we know is our hotspot. You know what I mean? It's like, not to say I can't be different kinds of funny in a performance, but if you want me from the guy that's coming off stage into the movie, then some of the movies weren't as tailored. So what I found was I needed to, get with a group of people that were like-minded and start trying to put together my own ideas. What came from that, though, was things that were more off kilter and different from stand-up.
Right.
So I tend to write, like I just finished writing or I'm rewriting a drama that I'm going to direct next year. I just did a short film this year that I co-wrote. Something completely different from who I am and what I'm about. It's about a Middle Eastern actor working in LA. And so I like to write things that are more grounded and then has seeping moments of comedy in it.
Sure, I know, life is full of that, yeah.
Right, where the hardships are sometimes the funniest shit comes out of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's that's very interesting. I think that I, as a comedian, am very drawn to Doug Stanhope because I'm not Doug Stanhope. Like, I'm so different than him on stage. I don't have any of the, in fact, he says a lot of things I disagree with, but I'm still laughing because things don't have to be true to be funny necessarily to me or whatever. Which is funny that you said that you just wrote it. You wrote something that's very not you.
Sure.
Right? It's like about a Middle Eastern guy.
Yeah.
How could you
a friend
even
of
get into that?
mine, Moni Babar is his name. He's been my buddy for a few years, and he was telling me all these stories about auditioning as terrorists and like always the bad guy, always getting killed within 10 minutes. And we would be at the gym kind of laughing about these stories and how marginalized he was.
Yeah, he's like, "Hey, can you help me read this script?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's
Exactly. It was like every audition he had to like dress in some garb that he wouldn't even normally wear, and he's like, "Man, it's rough." So I started talking to him about the idea of this short. And after it took about a year, we decided to go wheels up on it. We filmed it. We got great people involved. And then we just came from Santa Barbara International Film Festival. So we had our debut. First time we've seen it in front of a crowd.
Yeah. Felt like
as a comedian, you're sitting there, you're
all
like,
we care about.
Okay, now this
That's
is weird because I'm
the
here.
reaction. Yeah.
And it's like, and then they put us last in the short film program. So we're watching 8 movies that are all scoring and everybody's hitting, and now it's like now we have to close the show.
It's all different.
And I'm really, honestly, really very, very proud of it, and to say that it was received both nights with just an incredible round of applause at the end. And I felt like I feel like I've been turning a corner. I'm 46, so it's like I feel like I'm starting to add more tools still into the arsenal in order to have the longevity to tell stories, direct stories, sometimes just produce stories, sometimes act in them. And it's cool to be able to put on different hats.
Yeah, you've got quite the arsenal already. It's impressive. They give you credit for on the internet.
The internet?
Yeah, on the web.
What is this place?
The World Wide Web.
Oh, the WWW.
Yeah, which is what, 9 syllables? I just wanted to do World Wide Web. That you used social media to get the people to your shows and to get the following and get your jokes out to people who aren't even in the same city and those things. It was Friendster first, right? Or
Friendster
MySpace?
First. Yeah, no, I think Friendster was the first version of those, the first incarnation of like peer-to-peer kind of chatting and all that. And off of AOL Instant Messenger, which I think more people had been using for a period of time. And then, Friendster came along.
And then you were huge on MySpace. And then now everyone does this. So like now my grandpa has a Facebook. That didn't need to happen.
I was going to say, your grandpa's on MySpace?
He doesn't know. He just went and got
He's on the dark web.
Yeah, he's in a shitty band. That's why he's on MySpace. No, so everyone's on social media now. So like, what do you think the next thing is? Or like, do you have any idea? Or you're like, I don't have to worry about it anymore? Or like, what do you think that next thing is that comics, because to be honest, it's exhausting because you could, I think that the social media has a lot of great things that you could use. I'm using them. And it's got a lot of positives. But one of the negatives is you can make everything seem like my opener this weekend. If you went to his Instagram, you'd have no idea he opened for me. It's like, come see me at this venue. And it's just photos of him. It's like, you're not even, you didn't even mention that you're not the headliner or anything but because he looked like just a star on that Instagram.
Right.
But yeah. So what do you think the next thing kind of is?
Well, look at guys like Chappelle or even Rock. Chris Rock doesn't utilize his Twitter or whatever very much. Yeah. But these are guys with massive careers. Arguably, they were already, big stars. But I don't feel like it's as necessary. I think people think because we see these 100 million follower accounts that's still the only way. Sure. And I don't subscribe to that. For me, it was an avenue that I felt like it was untapped, and I liked it. I loved the I was kind of a geek, and I was into the isolation and just working on a computer and trying to figure out what HTML code was.
That's a very introverted way to socialize. Sure. Right? Like you're being social while also being in the comfort of your home.
Oh, perfect for me.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in like my just boxer shorts with a bowl of Fruit Loops, and I don't have to feel the anxiety of the up close and personal, but I'm still sharing this this altered version of myself, this character, so to speak, that I wouldn't know until years later that the character was me. I just needed to grow and believe that I could be the guy on stage all the time.
Sure.
It was amazing. It was like
'cause
this.
that was very confident. That was very,
Yes.
unapologetic and very responsible.
It was like a metamorphosis over, this is 29 years. So after like 24, 25 years, I started to like have my aha moments of being like, oh, wait, I am this person.
Sure.
I just have to really lean into it, you know?
Right.
So your material then to what your material is now.
Can we really call it material?
What you talk about on stage. But here's the thing.
The notions that we had.
They were so fun.
Oh, yeah.
It was so fun.
It was.
Do you feel that at a 46-year-old Dane Cook doesn't have any interest in talking about how you wish you were an alien from like a xenomorph or, you know what I'm saying? Like these kind of things. I tap dance in my act. You know, like one point I'm talking about how, you know, freedom of speech and how women and men are biologically different, which is very controversial nowadays to say that exact sentence. And then I'll talk about like a bird that was on my airplane, you know, or I'll talk about like kitty cats.
Sure.
Because I find it's super fun to talk about this, but I feel a little bit of guilt if that's all I'm giving them. I need to have some sort of thing that I believe in. Do you feel like talking about those kind of things is trivial or not in your interest anymore?
I wouldn't say it's trivial. What I try to do now, like where I've always wanted to get to in my stand-up, and I'm still like, you know, on the road to, kind of goes all the way back to George Carlin. And George Carlin used to do a character called the hippy dippy weatherman for many, many years. He wore like a beret and he did this voice and he was like, you know, this total character.
Sure.
You don't really know George Carlin. But I remember seeing this clip, and I'm sure you can find it on the internet somewhere. It's in a great documentary about Carlin. He had done the hippy dippy weatherman. He became known for the hippy dippy weatherman. And he went on like, say, the Tonight Show, might have been like Jack Parr show, whatever. And he brought a cardboard cutout of himself full height as the hippy dippy weatherman, you know, with the hat, making the face. But he was looking more like the Carlin we know. He was kind of, you know, put together and his hair was longer and back and looked like it was still wet from the shower.
He looked like a college professor.
And he held the hippy dippy weatherman, and he came out in like the beginning of his monologue was his comedy routine. He was like, a lot of you may know this guy. He made everyone laugh for a lot of years. And then he took the cardboard cutout and he dropped it and let it just fall out of the picture. He goes, but that guy's gone, and I'm George Carlin, and I'm here now. So let's get started. Okay. And it was like,
that's awesome.
He killed his old persona because he didn't want to fucking do that anymore. And it spoke to me and it moved me to where when I started doing stand-up, I was already, even though I was so green and new, I was already trying to think of ways to not be derivative of myself and repeat. Yeah. So it's not to say that as I've gotten a bit older that I'm not interested in observational humor, but I've gotten to a place where I am also introspective.
You've grown up.
Yeah, I've grown up. Yeah. It's like, and I went by like that.
That's beautiful.
And yet all the experiences, you know, many high water marks, but sure, a lot more valleys, a lot more lows in this life and career, helped inform how I want to do stand-up today, which is my whole process the last 3 years preparing for this was, how can I still retain the same caliber of funny that I want to perpetuate and continue to put out there? And by the way, is organic. I love that feeling of being on stage. I feel alive more than anywhere else on stage. Same. So I still have that. But I didn't want to degrade the LPMs, laughs per minute. Yeah. So where it is now, which is kind of fun, is it's introspective. It's about my life. It's about how I've experienced and seen things, and some of the shit that hits the fan or has hit it for me. But I still want to have flecks of the bird on the plane moment.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
And so if those can be intertwined, then that's kind of like my favorite place to be performing from, and that's why I'm going back on tour with what I put together.
Which must be so. I mean, if there's just zero chance that you haven't observed this, audiences seem to not care at all. Like I'll watch like a guy get on stage and he's doing just easy weird, and the crowd's just like, and then that's the quickest way to put me in a mood before a set is if I'm like, oh, they're laughing at that. Like, no, like I want more, not just of the comedian, but of you. Why would you, you know what I'm saying? So like it kind of, you go to like a tribble run in like the middle of Oregon or something, and you hear what they're laughing at. I think that's what agitated and turn killed Bill Hicks. He's just like, he lost all of his humanity for the people he's trying to make laugh.
Right.
And anytime you try to get to a thing, he'd be like, they they just want dick jokes. They don't care enough.
Yeah, I think people still want to have that. They have that escapist mentality, and sometimes the low hanging fruit. Let's face it. Sometimes we all want the low hanging fruit. Sometimes you just want to roll out of bed and be like, okay, what shitty TV show's on right now that's going to populate my brain with some dopamine and make me feel like I'm a somebody for a minute.
And it has a place, yeah.
And it has a place.
Yeah.
But I guess I always kind of tilt toward more of the optimistic side of things where I'm like, oh, but people, I feel like they still crave knowledge, and we get knowledge in hearing stories about other people's, trials and failures. So I still want to have the stuff that's like, the Avengers is,
fun. Yeah.
I can look at it and go, I know what the technical achievements are here, and I know the things that are, but I also like that it's just like someone's going to get punched in a really amazing way, and it might knock them through a moon or a building or a galaxy.
No back injury.
One hit. But I still like when the subplot is something that's like, oh, wow, I didn't know they were I thought like Captain America might have been Civil War. It had like this 70s political espionage element to it. So there can be both hanging in that same space.
I guess that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I think that, and I think that as we go on, and I'm sure you'll find this even in your stand-up, or you have found it, it's like, yes, your comedy is less kind of one-dimensional because you're less one-dimensional. In your 20s, we talked about, sex, drinking, whatever was happening around us, in this, kind of meager time in our life where there's no real understanding of, what's to come and how it starts to shift when you're not a pretty young person anymore.
Right.
And then, it becomes this crazy fucking like the mall at Christmas for the rest of your life, like a mad dash to get anything that you can. And if you don't get there first, someone's going to just crush you. Yeah. And that is life.
Right. Life is chaos. 100%.
Life's chaos.
People often think if they can just hide themselves from it with safe places and things that it won't exist. You're still going to be subjected to it. Yeah. Just because you went, like this, I don't have to hear it, doesn't mean it's not happening. You're going to have to get out there and it's going to happen to you.
One thing that you said too that sparked just an idea in my mind was that when it comes to, say, repeating, okay, you listen to like Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet, it's like they changed. You wanted to hear more of those songs.
Of course.
But if they did that, you'd hate them.
Right. Yeah. It's both.
Right? But if they never do them, you'll always resent that they didn't give you a little bit more.
Right.
So you're not going to ever win.
I found that to be true. Like
winning.
When I do important jokes that have like something that is true, like I'm pursuing the virtue of trueness. The audience is like, oh God, get off your soapbox. But then when I talk about a kitty cat or something, they're like, well, he was good, but there was no message. And you're like, well, this is the same man with the opposite critiques. It's like, they don't know what they want.
Jeff,
either.
If you can get a kitty cat joke with a message in it, you're a fucking bombastic motherfucker out there, man.
It was like, there was some real interesting undertones in that kitty cat
I never knew
bit.
that about Dan Dirt. Oh.
My favorite things since you so I think I've told you this before, but now it's on record, but just the fact that I always knew I wanted to be a comedian. I always knew I wanted to like perform, but I didn't know much about stand-up. So I didn't know what it looked like. Someone would say, what do you want to do? I was like, I think I want to be like Chris Farley or these guys that are on TV that get paid to be silly and funny.
Right. So you're watching more sketch stuff?
Just anything growing up. And I did watch a lot of stand-up also, but I didn't know that that's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
I just like when people say, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'd be like, oh, I want my own show and I want to do comedy and stuff. I didn't know what that looked like.
Sure.
And then someone was like, what you should do is do stand-up. That's how you can start. And then from there, it'll, And so I was like, all right. So then I just turned on Comedy Central and, yours was on and Mitch's and Tosh, or anyone from that era, Geraldo, and, or not that era, but that specific time stamp of Comedy Central was what was playing all the time. And then I was like, I want to be like this guy. That's the guy. He's all over the place. He's talking about really funny things. The audience is definitely responding. And I remember at first, everyone was on board. Like in Seattle, everyone, they're like, dude, he is the best. He's our favorite, blah, blah. And then I remember just people for no reason at all just being shitty. And then I hated that. And I was like, no, that's my guy. Like, that's the guy that I like the most. What are you talking? It's like making fun of, Tom Brady or something to me. It was like blasphemy. I was like, no, that's why we're here, stupid. Like, this building might have closed 4 years ago if it wasn't for this guy, and now you're talking shit because it's Seattle. But one of my favorite things is when the headliners would come through, I would run it by as my like Dane Cook propaganda, like, well, what do you think? Hoping they would be, because all the open micers yield to the headliners that come through. And Bill Burr had one of my favorite quotes about you. He's like these Boston guys, and I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, these fucking guys, they say that all the new comedians, they're not doing anything different. They're just doing the same shit we did, and they got their own different things. They're not, no, but nobody's different. Nobody's different. And then a guy comes along who's fucking different. And then what do they find some different way to criticize him. He's fucking good. And if you like him, you should like him. And I was like that. And then nobody said shit to me.
You're going to work on your Bill Burr impression.
Yeah. I'm not an impressionist.
You started and then you tailed into like...
That's for no reason at all. Yeah. The Kiwi, Bill Burr from New Zealand.
And by crikey, you gotta support him.
Bloody like him. You're like, what? They wouldn't say bloody. No, but I remember Bill Burr was so true to art about it.
Yeah, man, listen, the hazing comes with it. The hazing is something that was there very early on. If you're listening and you're contemplating wanting to be a stand-up comedian, and by the way, and not to get so philosophical, I think I did the same thing that you did. When you see these people, you go, I think I want to be like them. But the truth is, it takes a lot of years to go, what I was actually saying is, that's me.
Right.
That's exactly what I am. I'm a version of this.
The things I like in him is what I want to like about myself in a way, because
projecting,
right.
I read a lot, I read, I just finished The Four Agreements again. I read again. It's like, there's so much of what we are is, the fear and the concern that we have of failure and loss. And so what do? You want to fight that. You want to rebel against that. And so when I was coming up out of Boston, I learned really quickly. I'm a young kid, a lot of energy. I'm excitable. I'm interested. And some of the guys that were already through the ringer were grizzled. You know what I mean? They were, they had cynical. The cynical thing had set in. And by the way, I understand that too. It just happens as you get older. You know what I mean? But they made it tough. They really put me through a lot of. I was already a nervous person, and now it was like I had these guys leering over me, like. I think one guy, Steve Sweeney, might have. Somebody said to me one night, one of the top guys in Boston said, I was 2 years in, and they had like a meeting about me. And they'd like gotten together, and one of them said,
about fear.
It was reported to me by Littlefinger on the High Council.
Unbelievable.
It was reported to me that he said, if this Dane Cook figures it out, we're all fucked.
But what a.
Meaning, like, if I know how to turn it into a nickel into
right,
a dime, that for some reason it was going to come back and
well, maybe he was saying that because they were all being such assholes that he's like, oh, like he's gonna be mightier. But what a strange conspiracy of fear, like that they felt like they had to have a meeting instead of just being nice to you, being like, you know what, maybe I'll take this guy on the road with me and I'll help him out, like. Because
the
comedy's
changing.
Competitiveness of is so gross in this business where like
but change
it's okay.
It was also change. There was a shift in comedy from the boom of the 80s, and everybody felt it, and the new guys were coming in. New guys, new girls were coming up the ranks, and what are we going to do? We're going to try to do something different. We're going to do something that harkens back to what and what we grew up loving, but we're trying to do something different. I was doing that in Boston, and I felt like almost immediately I understood, with some success, there's going to be some backlash. Yeah. And of course, that continues with every.
And I think this is something I could learn from you more than anything else. How do you not resent? How do you not say, like, what are you talking? Like, I've done all these things,
Right.
and also in good intent. I'm trying to make people laugh.
Right.
I'm trying to make art for people to enjoy. Like I think only nowadays, at least in anything I can measure, or there's no data that suggests otherwise, that only now is everyone like this critic of like, well, here's what I thought. You're some stupid university kid. Why do you think you get to pick apart, a Black Knight with Martin Lawrence? It wasn't that deep of a film, like you don't have to, like everyone is such a critic. Every Twitter blows up with well, here's what I thought of the movie. We don't need your thoughts.
Well, it's the Andy Warhol mentality has come to life. Everybody's a celebrity within the confines of their page or blog or vlog or whatever. So everybody.
And there's a great way to see anytime there's been some sort of dig at you, anytime there's been some sort of criticism, any sort of backlash, you're well aware of the guys who treated you like dog shit before you were a giant household name. So what I'm asking is, how do you not get to this point and go, man, why'd you do that?
Okay, so there was an incident when I was still, I might have been coming back and forth to Boston like in 97 or 98. I was certainly nowhere near any kind of name, let alone a household name. Just lean years, struggling, trying to figure out where I'm supposed to be. And somebody had said some real shitty stuff, real disparaging, and just, and I confronted him like in a green room.
Yeah.
And I'm not normally like that. I'm not a confrontational person.
Yeah.
People they think that I'm like, I hover into a room like at an angle.
Right.
And I'm pretty, sensitive to people's feelings because
Sure.
I know how I feel. I want to walk and talk things through. I didn't do that in this case. I just stood up for myself. I was like, if you have something to fucking say it to my face right now.
Right.
Say it like you mean it to me, the way I keep hearing it. What happened from that was not people coming up to me in days to weeks to come going, we're proud of the fact that you spoke out against somebody who was defiling you in such a... No, I was a jerk. I was a bigger bully. They had more on me because like, that guy's just a weak blah, blah, blah. And Dane went in and it was like, I realized in that moment, fighting any of that stuff is what they want. Because when you fight it, you're exposing more to them that they can use to their advantage.
That's fascinating. But what's fascinating that what you took from that is that you're just not going to have those conflicts anymore.
I was going to keep it really to a minimal.
Okay.
Yeah, I was definitely, and then when it got to a point where I was this well-known entity, for public consumption, which by the way, and I've said this a couple of times recently, but what fame is, here's what fame is. Here's what making it is. When you achieve that, that's the moment you've just exposed yourself to more people that do not like you.
Oh, 100%.
That's what you reach at that level. Everything up until that is pretty gravy and fun, even though it's still a challenge.
Right.
But once you hit that upper echelon, it's like what comes with that in the backlash is I can't describe it, honestly. I really can't describe it. It was unusual to say the very least.
I was just witnessing it and I thought it was unusual. Like I know this is an analogy that you like because it's Tom Brady in Boston, but I feel like I see it with LeBron James. I see it with Tom Brady. And when I was very young and Michael Jordan was the guy, I don't remember any of us, even though we're in Seattle and he beat our Sonics in the finals. I don't remember anybody being like, screw Jordan. They didn't. They knew he was great and they loved it.
Right.
Whereas now, instead of just enjoying what is great, people go, well, he's no Jordan. Well, yeah, okay. LeBron's probably fine being second best ever in the world if that's what you believe. But why is it a threat to you that he's so great? I don't understand.
It's this stigma thing that we have to do. It's a very American kind of thing because
gross.
It doesn't really permeate the same way in other cultures and other places where I have fans and talk to people. They don't even know about the negative. A lot of them.
That's good.
Yeah. It's very and it's not like they don't have the same internet that we have, unless my fans in China. My fans in China don't. But so what happened was when I started getting the real tabloid level retorts against my character and who I was. For a little while, it was kind of funny because it was like, ooh, I'm controversial. This quiet kid from Arlington, Massachusetts, like, I'm polarizing.
When it also
That's
might be
cool.
exciting to wake up and just read about yourself. Like that's kind of like exciting.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let's see what they say about me today.
Until it started getting to a point where then I realized, oh wow, now it's starting to hurt my fans because people weren't sure if they could love me. People started getting nervous about like, oh, I tell people I'm going to see you and they
make a jab
smash
or something.
me nobody wants to feel that. You know what I mean? Even with things that we like, it's tough to stand up for yourself in that way. And then my family started getting, the other end of it where they would read things and be like really hurt
for
like,
no reason. That's what I find so
puzzling.
puzzling.
Why are people saying you have to say something? And I had many opportunities, Jeff, to go on countless morning radio shows and snap back.
Right.
I knew it wasn't me.
Right.
I knew it wasn't me. I was like, you know what? Let people believe what they want to believe. As long as there's still a crowd for me to perform somewhere, I know that I can regrow and rebrand and do everything that I need to do to evolve.
Yeah.
But fuck them. I'm
also
not going to fight
I've noticed
back.
people nowadays, they think that the symptoms of fame, which like are money and opportunities. I mean, I'm sure every day you get so many opportunities that you just don't even know what to do with a lot of them.
because some days
there's
there's
so
no
many happening.
opportunities.
Well, but I know, but that's part of your success and what you've built is that there's a lot of opportunities. There's money. There's attention from women. There's there's things. Those are symptoms of fame.
Right.
However, they think because you have those, it negates any of the problems. So if you were ever to say, oh, well, I hate it that maybe people are saying hurtful things about me that aren't true. They go, oh, well, he's so rich. And oh, it must be so hard in your mansion, Dane. And you're like, no, those are good. I'm not, but it doesn't negate these.
Right.
Yeah. You can't just say like, oh, well, I punched her in the face, but what's she mad about? I didn't rape her. You're like, well, what are you talking about? There's both. There's a place in.
I feel like people just they buy into a belief.
Yeah.
And just can't change people.
Yeah.
You can't change anything or any philosophy that a person already had, whatever their constitution is. You can't change it. What you can do is try to be in your work. And now I'm speaking, to if you're listening and you're like, okay, I want to do something in creativity, then you have to be able to put all of that into your work, the good and the bad, the highs and the lows. You have to tell complete stories. You have to put that all in your work because that's the only answer ultimately at the end of the conversation. Nobody's going to be quoting what somebody on the internet thought of you in 20 years as a historian.
Right.
They're going to look at the legacy that you left, and that's going to be determined by the specials that you put out and the books that you may write and the great podcasts and broadcasting ultimately that you do. The other stuff, it's disposable.
Yeah.
And I knew that. And I also knew that, some stuff could be scarlet letter. Like some stuff would be like stitched on and it might take, years to get every thread out. I'm willing to do that.
Right.
But I'm not willing to put any energy into negative people.
I love that.
Never.
Yeah. That's like, there's some sort of, I'm going to butcher the quote, but Mother Teresa has some quote about like, they're like, she does, she's a
This'll
great
be
quote.
fun.
Yeah. Butchering a Mother Teresa quote. I was like, that's not what she said.
She was like, yo, bitch.
She was like, listen, all you haters.
These motherfuckers going to step up.
No, but she had some quote about, they said, will you come to the protest? Or come to the march or some sort of thing like that.
They're protesting war.
To protest war. Yeah. And she goes, no, but if you ever have a march for peace, like I'll go to that.
Oh.
And it's cleverly spent, but it's the same thing. It's like,
she
I'm
was
just
a terrible
going to
stand-up though, Jeff. We have to be honest.
No punchlines.
No closing material.
She'd always start strong. Everyone's came, and it's like, but where is it going? On a lighter note, how great is it to be a Boston sports fan?
It feels good.
It's gotta be the best feeling in the world.
Because I remember when it didn't feel good at all.
Yeah.
And we're in like we're in like a really great groove right now with our sports. But
2 decades, I'd say. Yeah.
Growing up with the Red Sox, having the curse on them for so many years, and that was just deplorable. And the whole region felt it. And then the Pats for a lot of years were stinky,
with Pete
really
Carroll.
stinky.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll actually called me when I was in Boston and said, will you come and do a show in the locker room for the guys?
Awesome. Wait, for the Seahawks, when they were in the Seahawks, or during the Patriots?
When he was with the Patriots, yeah. And I was too scared. I got too nervous.
Really?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I was like, I don't know if I can roast these guys because I think I was still dealing with a lot of the public stuff. You know, it was like, is there a stage in the locker room? He's like, no, you'll just come in and do it in the middle. I'm
no
like,
mic. No.
So it's like I'm the coach.
It's really funny.
But it feels good. And you know what? We don't take it for granted. I don't take it for granted. You know, Tom Brady's got a couple more years left in him, and then everything's kind of
8 more. After
we've been saying a couple more years for 10 years now.
You know what? Here's hoping. I mean,
if we could learn anything from this, from like the San Antonio Spurs, how long was that team called old?
Yeah.
Dude, we called the Spurs old and they just kept winning, and and eventually after like 8 seasons, you're like, I'm not going to call them old anymore. It's tired and it doesn't work. And I think that's the same with Tom Brady. They talked about him retiring the last like 3 seasons, and he's like, no, I'm fine. I'm going to be cliff jumping with my gorgeous wife, and like they criticize him for like he kissed his son, and they're like, oh god, that was creepy. I was like, no, it's hilarious.
But you would think, you would think this country, which for all of our let's just call them missteps, even though that's making it far too light. The fact is we fought to have this independence, and then we created something brand new. Why isn't it in our culture to be like, anybody that's a winner that makes it through, like, rah, rah.
Let's root them on. Yeah, they've done it.
I don't get it. Like, when did it happen that everybody was like, I'm in my little box and fuck you if you try to be
jealousy.
Cool.
Yeah,
because he's not on my team. That's why.
How did America get so jealous?
I don't know. It's the worst thing in the world.
It's so strange.
When it doesn't help them. It never helps you to be like, oh, I'm going to shit on anyone. It's like, that's not, I guess it's, competitiveness is what it is.
Yeah, it's still one of those things that escapes me.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm a person who likes to root somebody on. When I see somebody, especially when they do, I know the sacrifice of being a comedian. I know the rough spots that you've probably dealt with, because I've been in my head and I've had those same conversations with myself where you're looking at the horizon going, is there anything for me that's going to protect me and protect my nest egg, and when I have a family someday, which I want to do, like, so I can appreciate and really respect that. For me, I want to get behind somebody that I feel like is trying to, be a pioneer in their own sense, cultivate something new. I want to get behind that. I want like-minded people as well who want to get behind new ideas and possibilities.
Well, that's why I always love the
diminish.
stories when people say, oh, who I really liked. And like Madonna she got so famous that everyone just like started trashing her all the time, but she was a brilliant performer and person. She likes a girl named Christina Queens, who's like this French queer artist that's like so talented and so great. And she just called her people and goes, I want her to open for me. And now Christina Queens is huge, like this huge band.
Right. And
it wasn't like Madonna going, oh God, she's dancing like me, and she's very derivative of what we were doing 20 years ago. This isn't original. Right. She instead was like, no, that's great. And people love, and I like what she's doing, and blah, blah, which is what I wish the Boston guys would have done with you.
Well, some did.
Did?
Yeah. I definitely, I don't want people to think that, my experience there was more positive, obviously, because it elevated me to a place where I could actually feel like I could represent the city of Boston and take it to other places. So for as much as there were people that put me through the spanking machine back there, there are way more people that I still, my graduating class that I, came up with, it's like, we've always stayed in touch and supported each other. And even if we're not like friends in close proximity, like there's just an allegiance because we know the struggle, we know the sacrifice.
Absolutely.
And so I could sit here and list names of people that actually improved my, my way of life so that I could function as a offstage person and then onstage performer.
I've asked Twitter what I should ask you.
Wait a second. Twitter.
And one of the things, we'll do the first one, was... And obviously, you don't have to talk about it.
How many bad questions did you get? How many questions were like, how
many people tried to be funny was ridiculous.
Oh, well, that's...
do you think this is what I wanted? This is not what I wanted.
This is... and by the way, really quickly, let me sound like the really old man on the hill. There was a good 5-year period where the internet was fun.
Oh, I believe it, but not anymore.
the best. Honestly,
Just trash now.
it was fucking so fun. And it was a place, it was an environment that I found, which mostly people were excited to find something on there that wasn't in their region,
Right.
that they could love from a distance and put it, lift
Right.
it up. And for 5 good years. And then
5
somebody
years.
went into a comment section and was like, fuck all of you.
Yeah.
And then it just all broke
A
apart.
tailspin
Like,
of
wait,
just
I can
hatred.
do this?
And yeah.
I can hide behind my keyboard too. And it's
Wait,
like,
I don't have to put my real name here? Yeah.
So, so hit me with some of the more upbeat questions.
Yeah, one of them was, amidst all the rumors, what really happened at the Laugh Factory?
Amidst all, yeah. So it was falsely reported that I was, I believe, banned for life from the Laugh Factory. When in all actuality, a lot of comics, a lot of the entire environment in and around comedy it can be prickly. You know what I mean? The competitiveness and all that. And that doesn't stop at just the stage. It's like there's club owners and then there's
Bookers and
everything cross-pollinating sometimes has a bit of frustration or resentment with the other side. So I saw a lot of comedians over several years have their own, sharp corners moment with the factory.
Sure.
I just never had experienced it. And I knew that I'd had a falling out with Jamie. Okay. And it basically was like, listen, we need a break. We need to not be so strongly affiliated in this era.
Did you own a
Never.
part of it? That was not a thing? I heard that a bunch of times.
No, people think that I was an owner or whatever, because Jamie would be like, oh, talk to the boss.
Oh, I see.
The owner of the place would call me the boss and stuff. And but I never said that. Nobody that I knew ever was like, hey, you legally own a part of that club.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
It was just friends having a falling out. And literally almost 2 years later, talked to Jamie. He's like, I love you, buddy. And I'm like, I love you too, man. I was a kid when I came here and I just want to work your stage. And if my fans want to see me somewhere, I'd like this to be one of the opportunities.
Yeah,
and so it was done. It was just men fighting.
He'd be a horrible businessman to say no.
And then men making, it's what we do. My best friendships are with, I'm just talking about comedians now, but even off stage, it's like you got to go through those hassle moments with each other and sometimes challenge each other as guys. Yeah. Because I think that's how we actually get more of a respect for each other in a sense.
With conflict comes resolution. And if you just avoid it, then there's no silent treatment for 4 days doesn't make you healthier with your wife. You should fight it out and
get it all, air it all out, and then talk about oh wow, I didn't know I was doing that. Yeah, and I'm double standard. I didn't realize I had, and that's just all we needed to do. So it was squashed after 2 years. The internet forever will have that information as whatever it is, and it's false. It's like, what percentage of what's on the internet truly, of all the billions upon trillions, is like just crap?
Yeah, it's all like my friend said. And then now it's written into a blog, and you're like, no, that's not that's not how information works.
For as formative, by the way, there's parts of the internet that's so great and informative. Sure. Away from people's odd opinions. And by the way, there's some great opinions. There's people that are speaking up that you're like, oh, this is actually your platform. Right. Like me in comedy, this is what you should be doing. You are shedding a light on things that are very deep and meaningful, and that could be a cultural shift in society. You singularly should keep writing. Yeah. A lot of these fuckheads around you. So now the internet basically is a dump.
Right.
Yeah. It's a dump because if you go to
there's some positivity in that too, I think. I can't just go into the grocery store and be like, Donald Trump. They'll ask me to leave. Right. There's a lot of people who can't have that conversation at their dinner table because it'll make too much. But the internet's a safe place to just spew your hate and vent that out. Right. As negative as it makes the internet, at least those people go, oh, I got to get this all out in some place where I can't be arrested.
But it can be a dump.
Yeah. It is.
And because like a dump, every once in a while, there's something really great in a dump. Yeah. Every once in a while, you can walk through the dump.
Found some good hats at the dump.
I found a great pail once and a bucket at a dump. So
they threw this out.
Who would throw this? This is a pail.
This is a great pail. One of the questions on the internet was, what is your worst gig? What was the worst gig?
Worst gig? Man, probably when I was about 4 years into comedy. I was in a comedy group, a sketch improv comedy group called Al and the Monkeys.
Well, at least you had them with you. Die alone up there, you know?
This is bad. So we got asked to do something called the Rock of Boston show, and it was going to be this big concert event at Boston, the old Boston Garden. On the lineup, Fish was going to close it out.
Oh, wow.
And then
I
they
can
had
imagine
groups
that demographic.
like Extreme and the Spin Doctors and Jeffrey Gaines and just all these great artists. So we get there and we think we're going to be opening the 3-hour show, but the promoter's like, hey, we love you guys. We're going to actually put you on later. And I'm like, oh, how late into the show are we going? We're going to put you on after the Spin Doctors, right before the headliner, Fish.
Nice.
Well, that's what we said.
Yeah.
Nice. That's a good
seems
spot.
good. Not
Okay.
for sketch.
We get out there. 4 guys. We all walked out on the stage. We started to go into a routine skit. And after maybe 30 seconds, something interesting happened. Everybody in the first like 5 or 6 rows started like putting their hands on their seats and like turning to each other or turning to people behind them, like pivoting. And you could read faces that were basically like, are they going to start singing? Like, when did they start singing?
Why is it not music?
They think we're an a cappella group or something. So they're looking around like, what's going on? 1 minute into doing whatever we were trying to do, you could feel this shift in the room. 15,000 people.
The worst.
And then at the exact same moment, as if they had practiced and rehearsed it as a crowd of 15,000, lighters just started coming out of the thousands of lighters. Pinging off the so many lighters were hitting around us. It was like the opening of Saving Private Ryan, but imagine lighters instead of bullets.
Yeah, which arguably a lighter is way more expensive than a bullet. They spent more money to try and hurt you than guns.
So we're seeing it's raining a monsoon of lighters.
It's amazing.
And then it stopped, and we're standing there. We're like shell shocked. We didn't know about like, can we just leave? We were like, I guess we need to finish this.
Power through?
So we tried to power through. The next wave, through the air, shoes.
Oh my God.
Sandals, Fish.
Yeah.
Sandals and shoes. And I remember as they were clumping down and hitting the stage and bouncing and hitting us, I remember standing in front of all these people going, I get the lighters, but who throws their shoes?
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember thinking, did they bring extra shoes to
they're
throw?
going home shoeless. Yeah. Hacky sacks. They're just throwing all their
We walked
fish.
off stage. We were humiliated.
It's the
we were
worst.
really mortified, man. And it was.
Was
I
it a
never felt
paid
that.
gig? I mean, it must have been for that many.
I don't know. I think it was just like to be a part of this amazing event.
So
but
sad.
dude, we were shell shocked for a while. I never wanted to bomb like that ever again.
Yeah, no one does. I think every comic, anytime you ask a comic their worst gig, almost 100% of the time, it's a music thing.
Yeah.
Almost always.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna let you go.
I did one at a carnival once, and they put me right next to like the bouncy house.
Outdoor.
Yeah, but instead of like little kids, where you would have heard like, it was like drunk frat dudes who were like, "Fucking a bouncing dude!" And the whole show, just people bouncing in this house, just swaying next to the
That's
stage.
amazing. Nobody's not a good comedy.
I think my biggest laugh was I looked at it and I walked over to her. I kind of touched it. And I go, "Does anybody have a nail or like a knife?" I wanted to fucking pop the bouncy house.
He's ruining your
That would
shit.
have been the end of my show. Hey, everybody.
That'd be amazing.
Good night.
All right, so I want to do before we let you go. And thank you for doing this, by the way. You're the
Jeff,
greatest.
thank you for having me,
Yeah,
man. This
love
is
you, man.
awesome.
I want to do some word association.
Word association.
So just say whatever you think when I say the word.
Oh boy.
Some of them are based on tweets, and then some of them are just I want to know. Boston.
Home.
Female comedy.
Male comedy.
Marriage.
Hopeful.
Comedy and Magic Club in Hermosa Beach.
Unplayed.
Okay.
I don't know if I've been there.
So Comedy Store.
Legendary.
Laugh Factory.
Legendary.
Okay. Netflix.
The Next Wave.
Rock and Roll.
Here to Stay.
Madison Square Garden.
Home.
Tour Life.
Intense.
Intense.
Yeah.
Those are the ones I want to.
All right.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Oh, okay, good.
I want it. Yeah, that's deep. I'm remiss that we didn't talk about your music. You're like a big music.
I do
guy.
love music. I haven't really worked on it in many, many years, but it's totally my thing to do away from what I need to share with people.
Yeah, because I used to get that. There was the place that was across from the Comedy Store. It's not there in a House of Blues.
Yeah,
Yes.
House of Blues.
Yeah,
Oh,
I remember
yeah.
there was a few times I would go there, and then they would always bring you out.
Yeah, on Steel Panther nights.
Yeah, and I remember being like, "This is so awesome." Last time I was here, Dane came out and did music with him, and then we would be drinking, having fun, and then sure enough, you would come out. We're like, that's 2 in a row. I've only been here twice, and Dane came out, and then that happened the third time, and the fourth time.
Anytime they were in town, there was a night they'd like tell me to come down and make me feel like I had a Eddie Van Halen.
It was awesome.
kind
Yeah,
of moment.
super
David
good. I
Lee
remember
Roth
being
moment.
like, he's gonna the music thing, and then you did the American Idol where that stupid idiot came and grabbed the microphone.
Oh my gosh.
Those are my
yeah.
words.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right in the middle of my tribute song,
It made no sense.
somebody like ran out on stage.
Yeah, this
totally
effeminate
forgot about
guy
that.
just like came out, grabbed the microphone, similar to the Kanye West Taylor Swift moment.
Yeah, I
and
forgot
then
about
just
that.
like did a whole thing. But it was like, it's like the world's finally getting to see Dane do like music on like network television, and then this guy's like, "This will be my moment." You're like,
I think I remember watching it and being like, I was like, that was actually probably good that happened.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't know, it didn't come off the way I had hoped it would. That's the whole thing about performing, man. It's not always gonna be what you want it to be.
Right.
Sometimes you just gotta go with, even if it's crumbling around you, you're like, all right, this is crumbling set. Let me figure out how to make a crumbling set also somewhat entertaining
Do the
and
best.
informative. You know?
The only time I've ever sang karaoke, I sang Journey, Don't Stop Believing,
Yes.
but I can't sing good.
Nobody can
worst.
sing that in
Yeah,
karaoke.
but I can't sing regular thing. People cringe when I do like the birthday song. It's not my gift. I am not a musical guy.
I can verify.
And I was bombing so badly during Journey, because it's the first time I ever did karaoke, that I started to do crowd work, and that annoyed them more. They're like, "Why is he doing this to us?"
It became karaoke.
Oh, people were like booing. Yeah, people were booing. It was so bad. And then since then, people were like, "I don't know how you do stand up." I was like, "Well, we all have our fears. I don't know how you do karaoke. Like that's my nightmare."
Let me ask you some questions.
Go for it.
Let's go. I want to go through the list.
Oh, when I think of those,
Yeah,
those are the words.
I'm going to say some. I'm
Yeah.
going to say some words. Ready? Seattle.
A home.
Okay. Female comedy.
Grossly tired.
Madison Square Garden.
A goal.
Netflix.
A wave. I think that was a good answer when you said that.
Stand-up comedy.
My true love.
Yeah,
Yeah, my
Yeah.
first love.
absolutely, man. And you're
Yeah.
good at it too.
Thank you very
So
much.
I'm glad that you're still in it.
I think Netflix is doing a thing that the comedy clubs also are tricky, because like comedy clubs stopped caring about the value of the art and became businesses. Well, they've always been businesses, but they care more about business first, which is always remiss, or it's always void of empathy or care or love. Like when you're a business person, you say, "Hey, it's not personal. I know you have kids, but you're fired." And that's what comedy clubs do. They go, "We don't care if you're funny. We need to fill these seats."
Right.
So now it's Val Kilmer's one-man show and he doesn't even have a voice. John Sally and Ron Artest and Mick Foley, the wrestler. It doesn't make it, they don't care anymore. And so that's sort of what Netflix is becoming.
Yeah.
Where they go, "Oh, I just want the famous person. I don't care if it's good. I don't even care if it is stand-up." Yeah, she's doing a goddamn TED Talks where she quits doing stand-up halfway through and they call it a comedy special.
I do feel like the one thing that they've done, which I can appreciate, is at least they've populated it with more stand-up, as opposed to Comedy Central went TV route.
Right.
You know,
All
animated
shows
and
and
show
sketch,
skits and, you know, somebody getting high and then talking for an hour. It's like, and I get it. There's value in that, but
I think that's what killed Vice. It became the marijuana network.
right? Yeah.
It's just every show is about weed. You're like, I liked your net.
So I feel like Netflix is at least, it's, to me, it's that step into the future of, it may not always be Netflix at the helm of it, but the idea of, I can create something and I can share the same way I can share it with 200 people in a comedy club. That night, I can be sharing it with 2 million people potentially.
Absolutely.
If it's affiliated with the right promotional, vehicle. So I think it's definitely the next wave of the future. When going back to the question really quickly earlier, what's kind of like, what do I think of where the internet is now? I feel like more than having to promote yourself to stardom, I think now it's like, No, get something that's really great that you've cultivated that people haven't been exposed to too soon.
Sure.
Work on it away from all that. And when you're ready to upload it and you know it's good and you better make sure it's really great.
Right.
Then I think there's opportunity for you to, the average audience could be hundreds of thousands of people for emerging artists in a really new way. So I hope the Netflix of the world continue to try to, make it that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that, because I think that they just kind of go, oh, we love what you're doing, man. That's great. I mean, we just don't need any more white guys. And you're like, what? Like, that's your take? What a strange take.
Hey, you know what? There's eras for whatever kind of music or comedy or, and sometimes you're in an era that may not be catered to, you or you're catering to.
Yeah.
So to me, that's when you're in the lab and you're working overtime, because when it comes back around, and it always does, then you're going to have more razzle dazzle to show people.
From your lips to Netflix's ears.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this, man. I love you, buddy. I appreciate
Thanks,
you.
man. Thanks, guys.
Friendship.
How about that? Good old episode with DC and TR and JD. Having a good time. Super fun stuff, man. Love that guy. Like I said, if you want to get tickets to Dane Cook's tour, it starts February 20th or today. And you can get your tickets. See if he's coming to a town or a theater near you. This weekend, I will be at the Stress Factory in New Brunswick. So if you're in New Jersey, come swing on by. If you'd like to go to that show for free and watch this podcast episode, all you got to do is go to patreon.com/Jeff Dye, and for $10 a month, you get free comedy club tickets to all of my shows for good, and you get to watch this podcast and a bunch of other goodies. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening. Join us next week on week 47, where our guest is, I don't know, but you'll like him or her. Just be there. We love you.